Have you ever heard of the vanishing at Hollow Creek? On a dark and stormy night, a young woman named Emily Parker vanished without a trace while hiking home through a secluded forest. What happened to her? And did she ever escape the darkness? Join me as we explore the haunting details of this mysterious case. It was the year 2024. Life was good for Emily Parker. At 23 years old, she had just finished her first year at the local university where she studied biology. Her life was filled with friends, laughter, books, and long walks in the woods near her home. For Emily, nature was more than just scenery. It was a friend. When the days grew longer and warmer, she would spend hours in the woods near her hometown of Hollow Creek. The forest was an escape for her, the trees her only audience. She would read her poetry out loud amongst the ancient oaks and sycamores, their roots holding secrets older than time itself. Sometimes she would sit for hours, listening to the wind rustling through the leaves, feeling a part of something bigger than herself. It was here in the forest that she felt truly free. One evening in early May, Emily decided to take a shortcut through Hollow Creek on her way home from the library. She had spent the afternoon poring over ancient texts, and now the sun was setting, casting long shadows through the trees. The locals always whispered about strange lights and eerie sounds in the woods at night, but Emily never believed them. Tonight, the forest was her only way home. So she took a deep breath and stepped onto the winding path, its surface a carpet of fallen leaves and damp earth. As Emily ventured deeper into the woods, the air grew colder. A shiver ran down her spine, but she pushed on. The path narrowed, the trees growing closer together, forming a tunnel of twisted branches and thick undergrowth. Just then, a thick fog rolled in, swirling around her legs like ghostly fingers. The scent of damp earth and decaying leaves filled her nostrils. As Emily emerged from the thicket, she realized she couldn't see the path behind her. She turned back, but all she saw was a wall of fog and the looming trees. Panic began to rise within her, cold dread creeping up her spine. She started walking again, her footsteps echoing strangely in the stillness. Then she heard it, a snapping twig, a whisper in the wind, footsteps behind her. Emily quickened her pace, her heart pounding against her ribs. She glanced over her shoulder, but the fog was thick and she couldn't see anything. Was it the wind? Had she imagined the sound? Trying to calm herself, she continued on, her senses on high alert. As minutes passed, the silence was broken only by the sound of her own breathing and the distant hoot of an owl. Emily broke into a run, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She stumbled over tree roots hidden in the fog and fallen branches, her legs burning with exertion. The thought of whatever was behind her, catching up, spurred her on. Suddenly, the forest floor seemed to drop away. Emily gasped, stumbling onto a narrow dirt road. She had reached the edge of the woods. Relief flooded her as she burst out of the trees, the open road stretching before her like a lifeline. Taking one last glance over her shoulder, Emily saw a dark figure standing at the edge of the woods, silhouetted against the dim light. She couldn't make out any features, but it seemed to be watching her. As she hurried away, the figure remained motionless, rooted to the spot. Shaking off the disturbing image, Emily quickened her pace, eager to put as much distance between her and the dark figure as possible. Finally, she saw the familiar lights of her town in the distance. With renewed hope, she picked up her pace, her heart still pounding. As she approached her home, The events of the evening began to feel like a bad dream. Relief washed over her as she fumbled for her keys, her hands trembling slightly. Behind her, the darkness of Hollow Creek seemed to press closer, as if reaching out to pull her back. Inside, with the door locked and the lights on, Emily recounted the terrifying experience to her parents, their faces etched with worry as she described the eerie atmosphere, the unsettling sounds, and the dark figure at the edge of the woods. They listened intently, their silence broken only by the crackling of the fireplace. After her harrowing experience, Emily's parents insisted that she stay home for the next few days. However, her mind was already back in the woods. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching her, waiting for her to return to Hollow Creek. The more she tried to push the incident out of her mind, the more it seemed to linger, like a dark cloud following her every move. Despite her parents' worried protests, Emily felt compelled to return to the woods. She needed to find out what had been lurking in the shadows, what had driven her to the edge of her sanity. With her parents' reluctant permission, Emily armed herself with a flashlight and a thick stick. The woods seemed different during the day. The towering trees cast dancing shadows on the forest floor, and the chirping of birds filled the air. Yet Emily couldn't shake off the feeling that she was being watched. The further she ventured into the woods, the thicker the fog became. She could barely see the path ahead of her, and the familiar sounds of the forest seemed distorted, as if something was trying to hide itself from her. Just as she began to lose hope of finding anything, she spotted something in the distance. A backpack lay abandoned on the ground, its straps unfastened, lying as if its owner had just taken it off and left it there. Emily's heart skipped a beat. Could this be the answer she had been seeking? Cautiously, she approached the backpack. As she got closer, she noticed that it was hers. Relief flooded her, quickly followed by panic. Why had she left her backpack behind? And why had she not remembered doing so? The forest seemed to hold its breath, the wind still, the birds silent, as if waiting for Emily to uncover the truth. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the woods. Startled, Emily turned to see a large tree branch lying on the ground nearby, snapped clean in half. It looked as though someone, or something, had broken it deliberately. Emily's mind raced. Was she really alone in this vast wilderness? What else might be hiding in the shadows? Emily decided to retrace her steps, hoping to find some clue to the mystery. The path was unclear, but somehow she knew exactly where to step. As she walked, she noticed other signs of disturbance, overturned rocks and broken twigs. It was as if someone had been here before, moving heavy objects aside and trampling the delicate undergrowth. The forest was no longer a place of peace and solitude. It had become a labyrinth of secrets and shadows. And then she saw it, a faint glimmer in the distance. Rushing towards it, she found a clearing. In the center stood a tall oak tree, its branches gnarled and twisted like the claws of some ancient beast. At its base, nestled in the roots, was a small wooden box. Emily's hands trembled as she reached for it. Could this be the key to unraveling the mystery that had ensnared her in its web? As she opened the box, a gust of wind suddenly swept through the clearing, causing the leaves to swirl around her feet. Inside the box, Emily found a collection of strange symbols and markings carved into the wood. There were spirals, circles, and lines that seemed to form a cryptic message, a silent scream trapped in the heart of the forest. Emily felt a sudden chill run down her spine. These weren't just random carvings. They were a warning, a sign left behind by something ancient and malevolent. The forest pressed in around her, the towering trees whispering secrets in a language she couldn't understand. Fear tightened its grip on her heart, making it difficult to breathe. The playful rustle of leaves had turned into a menacing growl, and the chirping of crickets was now a chorus of mocking laughter. Suddenly, the air grew heavy, charged with an energy that made the hairs on her arms stand on end. The forest held its breath. In that moment, Emily knew she wasn't alone. Something was watching her from the shadows, waiting for her to make her next move. Adrenaline surged through her veins, urging her to flee. She turned and ran, crashing through the underbrush, desperate to escape the oppressive presence that seemed to be closing in on her. She could feel its eyes boring into her back as if willing her to run. Deeper into its domain, the forest became a tangled maze, and Emily's breath grew heavier, her lungs burning with exertion. Just when she thought she might collapse from exhaustion, she stumbled out of the woods and onto the road. Gasping for breath, she looked back at the dark and imposing entrance to Hollow Creek. As the first rays of sunlight pierced through the canopy, Emily's ordeal finally came to an end. She stumbled home, shaken and traumatized, vowing never to return to the woods. What had she encountered in the depths of Hollow Creek? A malevolent presence that had stalked her every move, its eyes boring into her soul. Days turned into weeks, but Emily's ordeal haunted her every waking moment. The comforting embrace of her family home couldn't shield her from the chilling specter that lingered at the edge of her vision. Then, just as abruptly as it had begun, the haunting presence seemed to vanish, leaving Emily to grapple with the haunting echoes of her experience. But the story doesn't end there. The people of Hollow Creek still tell tales of the shadow that lurks in the woods, waiting to claim its next victim. So have you ever experienced anything similar? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't yet, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more scary content. Thanks for watching.